Hello there, it's Alana Techie, and I'm here to give you some more Excel instructions. This time I'm going to show you how to find the coefficient of determination r squared by calculator. Okay, so we have this lovely data set up here with the year and the burglary rate. So I just typed that into an Excel spreadsheet right here. Now remember that I don't really want the year. What I want is time, t. So I'm going to find t, and the fast way to do this is to use a formula. So type equals, and then you click on this cell over here, which is 1992, and you subtract away 1990, because that was our starter year. Enter. And of course, you could just type 2. I know. If you want to just type 2, that's fine, but this is more fun. Then I move my cursor to the bottom right corner. See how it turns into a little plus sign when I do that? That's called the handle. And I'm putting the cursor over the handle. And then I hold down my left mouse button and I drag it down. And then I lift up on my mouse button and swing. All the values are all filled out. Now, if you want to sit there and type 2, 4, 6, 8, fine. But look, see how easy it is to mess up when you're typing? Even I do it. All right. This is as bare bones as we can get. So we've got our data. You highlight the data, insert, scatter, click on the scatter plot, get rid of that legend. We don't need that. Then all you have to do is right-click, add trendline, click on display equation and display r squared. See it down there? Display r squared. Close. And you can move that box around to get kind of a better view. They always write it right on top of the line, which I don't see how helpful that is. And then the only thing we have to do is give this some titles. This is, let's see, burglaries per 1,000. Per 1,000 residents. And then over here we need a horizontal axis of years since 1990. And there we go. That's it in a nutshell. So it's basically stuff you've already learned. Get your data in there, make a scattergram, right click, add trend line, and then when you're in that trend line, let me format the trend line. When you're in that trend line, whichever one you pick, exponential, and by the way, watch, exponential, right? Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't actually click on the trend line. Hold on. There it is. So if I format that trend line, there it is. Exponential, see how it changes? Polynomial, there it is, see? And you would just click whichever one you want. So I'll start with linear. Cool? Of course, this might not be, the kind of quality you want to be able to turn into an instructor. So let me go over that real quick. So how do you make these things a little bit prettier? So this is bare bones. Got to have titles, and you got to have your trend line with your numbers in it. Right? That's as basic as you can get. And then you just do it over and over and over. Here, I'll give you a little cheat. You press copy, Control C. I'm actually doing it with Control C, but you could also do it up here. And then if you just paste and then paste again, you could have 3 graphs. And then whichever graph you want, you can just right click, format the trend line, and change it. Like I'll make this one the exponential one, and then I'll click on this one, format trend line, and make that the polynomial one. See? So I got a polynomial, I got an exponential, and I've got a linear. Right there. Linear, exponential, quadratic. All right, but again, those graphs aren't super pretty, so what you could do instead would be to kind of clean it up a little bit. First of all, let's make this a better table. So if I give this some borders and stuff, and again, you don't have to do any of the stuff I'm about to do. This is more for making things nicer for when you have to turn in reports to instructors. All right, like projects say. So you click on scatter, same thing as before. Got to give this oh, I think this was per 100,000 residents. Sorry, that doesn't make any... I was going to say, otherwise we're all being robbed. It's per 100,000 residents. 100,000. Oops, my fault. So let me go in here. Oopsie. Oh, it's not going to let me do this nicely. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. All right, back to what I was doing. So let's see. Access titles. Let's get this right. Burglaries per 100,000 residents. Enter. And then we need an axis title on the other axis, which is years since 1990. And then I just want a slightly prettier design, so I'm going to go for, no, I've got to font this for these ones. That's just me. And then now I want to add some grid lines. I'm not super fond of what I've got going on here. So I'm going to add my major and minor grid lines. That's pretty good with the 0 to 25. And then I want to make that axis a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go down to line style. I'm right-clicking on the axis, by the way, to make this happen. So I right-clicked, and then I just kind of went to line style, or format axis, then line style. Here, I'll do it again. I'll do it over here. If I click on these numbers, see how it highlights the axis? Right-click, format axis, line style, and I'm boosting this because I like it. And if you want to fiddle around with that more, so be it. I want to add the minor grid lines there, but I don't like what those look like. So let me right-click and format the axis again. I'm going to change my minor unit to 100. There we go. Now I've got a nice checked pattern. And then I want to right-click, add trend line, linear display, and display R squared. That's the new thing. Close. And there it is. And if you want to make it bold, you can actually just click on the box. See how the box is holding all of it? And Control B, and it's bold. Nice, huh? That's all there is to it. And then I would just cheat again. Click on the whole graph, Control C, then go over somewhere else and paste, Control V. And then you got a new one. And then you can just if you click on the trend line, see how the little dots at the end of the line are highlighted? Then you right click, format that trend line, and change it to an exponential. Leave the display R squared and display equation, and it's just sitting in there displayed. Remember that that's a little bit different. We don't do the e to the, you'd have to go find what e to the negative 0.024 is somewhere. All right. And then you could just do it again. Control C, Control V. And then right click on that format trend line and pick polynomial. We want degree 2 because we were only working with quadratics in our class. And again, you can kind of pick up that box and move it around to fit your graph better. All right. The only other thing is, what if you don't like how thick that trend line is? So if I format that trend line, it's kind of thin. Let me go to line style and make it a little bit thicker. See? And don't forget, we can always do the forecast thing. We don't generally, but if you wanted to go ahead 1 unit and behind 1 unit, you can do that. And then I can do it for this one as well. Format trend line, make it thicker. And I'm going to go ahead a unit and behind a unit, just, for the sake of it. So there's that one. I'm going to move it out of the way. Hey, come here. There he goes. And then, there we go. I'm going to click on this, format trend line, line style, make it thicker. And I'm going to forecast. Again, just because I feel like it. You could do 1 unit, you could do 2 units, you could do a few units, whatever. Just keep in mind that it starts fiddling with the x-axis. Unless you've fixed those points, when you forecast, here, let me do it again. If I go forward 5 units and backward 5 units, here, let me see what happens. It starts messing with the axes down here. Unless you fix those axes points, which you can do. You can go click on the axis and fix it at 0, right? You can do it that way, but it's just a little bit rougher, right? So if you don't want that, then I'm going to Control Z my way out of that. Okay, there we go. I like my thick line with a little bit of forecast. The one other thing I want to show you is how to print, because you might have to turn these in for, say, like a project or something. So how do you get it to print? All right, and again, you could choose it for the bare bones ones down here or the more advanced ones up here, right? So let me click on one of these. So if I click out here on the cell, see how sorry. Do you see how I'm in D, whatever this is, D6, D1, right? See that? Oops, here it is. So if I click out in D6, D1, any of these cells out here, do you see how the graphs aren't highlighted anymore and the format and all that stuff went away? If I go now to File, Print, it's going to print that giant mess, which isn't really useful for me at all. Okay, so I don't want that. So what happens if you click on one of the graphs? See that? The design layout chart, all that stuff comes back up. Then I go to File, Print, and it's going to make that graph into a printable graph. See? And then I could just print it to any printer I wanted. Nice, huh? And then you could just go do it again. There are other ways to print. There are a lot of ways to print in Excel. Bear with me here. So I'm just teaching one of the ways, right? And then if you don't want it to be like this, you say like, oh, that's terrible. I don't want it to be letter. I want it to be landscape, right? Let's see. Ooh, portrait orientation. There we go. I don't want portrait. I want landscape. Ah, that's better, right? That makes more sense because my graph is more a landscape orientation. So I would print that. And then I would go back, make sure file, print. That one's landscape. Good. And then I would go back to the third one over here. Can't really see him, but there he is. Move away. There he is. File. You got to click on him though. And then file, print. See, that's portrait again. I don't want that. I want landscape. And there you go. Nice, huh? Oops. Okay. Sorry, I had to pause you. But what about printing the table? Because that could be nice, you know, good to have. So you don't want to get rid of all this other junk. I mean, you could sit here and like move it aside and move it aside. You can see that Excel is giving you kind of like a dotted line in there to kind of show you where the print screen would end. But that's kind of a pain. What you can do instead is take your cursor and highlight that table part. And then go to File, Print, and click Print Selection rather than Print Active Sheets. Because if you print Active Sheet, it's going to print all this mess over here. And then it's going to have pages of mess that don't make any sense. But if you click on Print Selection, then it'll only print the thing that you've got your cursor highlighting. See? And then you could just print that off. And if you have like some typing over here, like answer number 1, you know, to questions and stuff like that, then you can highlight all of that and click File, Print, Print Selection, and see any answers you have would be over there. Nice, quick. It gives you a way to print without having to like clear off the deck and make everything go away. All right, so we actually reviewed a whole bunch of stuff. How to make a table, how to make it pretty, how to make a bare bones graph, right? Get some titles, throw a trend line in there, right? That's as simple as you can get. And then how to make it more attractive, more lovely for the sake of turning it into something. And then also how to print each graph individually and how to print the table by itself. And also don't forget that orientation thing. Very nice to know. So when you print, you want to make sure you're not doing portrait orientation for something like a graph. You might want to be doing landscape orientation. Not that the portrait orientation is the worst thing ever, but not as nice. All right, I hope that helps. Gives you some ideas for your projects.